Hello ladies and gentlemen, just before we begin I need to thank PlayAsia for supplying me with this copy of Cytus Alpha. If you want to support me and the channel, check the description for both a link and a coupon code. Use both of them, you put the coupon code in during checkout, you'll save a bit of money and you will help me out with the channel. So yeah, enjoy the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Cytus Alpha. This is going to be post-commentary footage. Oh my god, does my phone have to go off right as I'm starting recording? Right, I'm just going to take a look around at the settings menus and all that. Everything there is pretty much exactly what it seems like, except for matching, but we'll get to what that is very shortly. You can, of course, also change the note size, which is nice, but really you don't need to have it on anything other than the largest. And it's also going to take a moment to go through the story sections, which you unlock via performing well via the rhythm minigame, and the story is actually pretty poorly translated, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's kind of surprising, actually. I remember the PlayStation Vita version of Cytus Lambda, being much better translated than this. I'm not entirely sure why they've suddenly cheaped out with this version, but apparently they have, and there are some very obvious, like, it's very clear that the person who wrote this is studying English as a second language or something, because it's something that people who naturally speak English wouldn't do. It's a little bit bizarre. Also, Modern Sentinel, is that typo on purpose or not? But I'm not entirely sure. You unlock the story as you go through the game itself, and it's basically about a virus that destroys the world, and so therefore you have a little robot girl. I haven't paid close attention to the Cytus story. I absolutely never did. But, yeah, it's here if you want it. And once we're done here, we will go back, we will start playing songs, and we basically won't stop. There is a multiplayer segment to this game, which is what the matching is, but again, we won't get into that. So I'm just going to wait for myself to actually catch up and go and hop into the actual songs before I do much else, which shouldn't be long now, hopefully. So you get to see the chapter select screen, which is weird because then when you select an actual chapter, it'll actually bring up another chapter select screen. I'm not entirely sure what the point is. You can also see your story beats out here. And you can see all the way to the end, to chapter 10. Every chapter has a sub-chapter that you unlock either via beating a majority of the songs in that chapter or by doing well in the online mode. So I'm just going to pop into some songs here. It's going to start playing songs and it's not going to stop for the most part. There might be a couple of bits in the footage I have to cut out, but other than that, it is absolutely not going to stop. So you do also have some options here for click sound effects, but there's only one, and whether or not the notes come up in groups or they just fade in. It makes sense once you see it. So if you haven't played Cytus before, here's Cytus. It is a rhythm game. And the idea is you just gotta tap these notes as accurately as you possibly can. The note line swings up and down the playfield, and you gotta get the notes as the line passes by them. There are a couple of things you need to take note of, pun not intended. You have to hit the notes when the note line is going the right way. So you'll notice that some of the notes are green and orange, and some of the others are purple and blue. Green and orange you have to tap when the line is going down. Purple and blue is what you need to tap when the line is going up. This is not an exact rule, and you can hit certain notes before the line gets to them, but you won't get the maximum amount of points for it. So it's just worth noting that the two colors need to be gotten when the line is going a specific way, because it can help with you sorting out the more intense note combinations. There are also two other kinds of notes than just your regular tap notes. There's hold notes, which are exactly what they sound like, and drag notes, which are also exactly what they sound like. And those are the only three notes in the game. One of the best things about Cytus is that it's actually really simple. They include a tutorial along with the game, and you don't really need it because it's really easy to pick up what you need to do to begin with, especially if you've got the music up and the sound blasting, which is really nice because being able to just jump straight in is one of the best sort of things that an arcade-style game has going for it, and most rhythm games also fall under this category, so being able to just drop right in is great. Especially since that you tend to have a little bit of choice when it comes to songs in this game, so just picking one and going is usually fine. With that said though, there is actually something that's worth talking about here, and that's the control schemes, because Cytus was a game originally designed for mobile phones and tablets. I originally played it on my Vita, which is controlled entirely via the touchscreen, but it was originally on mobile phones like Android devices. So the main mode that they usually expect you to use is the touchscreen mode. And when you're playing on the Switch with the Joy-Cons unslotted and the Switch flat on like your desk or something, it works absolutely fine. The audio is 100% in sync. The tapping is 100% on point. There's no sensitivity issues or anything like that whatsoever. The screen reacts exactly how you expect it to, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The art in the background looks great. The notes are nice and big and very hard to get confused with something else. And the overall experience of playing while you're tapping the screen is fantastic, because Cytus has a sort of finger gymnastics going on for it that even games that they have themselves made, Rayark, the developers of Cytus, have made after this, haven't quite reached the level of Cytus in just pure simplicity while also being ridiculous finger gymnastics. In ways that you can have two fingers going on the screen, then you can pop in a third and a fourth to hit notes way off to the side, and then you can stretch your fingers across to get to a bunch of notes on one side of the screen, and then you can just lift all your fingers up and go bass in your bass 2, and just doing all sorts of ridiculous things like that. That is fantastic. That has always been fantastic, and considering how old the original Cytus is at this point, like, that, it couldn't be done any better at this rate. It's just that good. And it is one of the absolute best examples of rhythm games on a touchscreen that I can personally think of. Like, it completely and utterly beats out DJ Max Technica Tune, because it's just so much better at the idea of touchscreen rhythm games. And while you might argue that Super Beat Sonic is better, it's more complex, which it definitely has going over Cytus, but at the same time, Cytus' simplicity really does help it out, and yeah, it is fantastic to play on the Switch's touchscreen. However, in this port of the game, and only this port as far as I can tell, I don't think they've added this to the Android version or anything, but in the Cytus Alpha version, you actually have the ability to control it with a controller, with physical buttons. And the control scheme is just as simple as the touchscreen controls. So, you hit a button to hit a regular note. If you want to hit two notes at once, you got to hit two buttons. Whether it be like A and B, or something on the directional pad and one of the face buttons. And you will need to do that a lot, so you better get used to having two buttons ready to be pressed at the same time. And for drag notes, all you need to do is hold in the shoulder buttons. That's all you have to do. I mean, you do have to release for multiple drag notes, but yeah, you just have to hold it in and wait for it to go all the way across. And it's an interesting control scheme, I will give it that much. There are a couple of problems with it though. As I said before, the sort of finger gymnastics that you have going for you when it comes to Cytus just doesn't apply on the controller, because your hands will pretty much be staying exactly where they need to be, which is one thumb on the D-pad, one thumb on the face buttons, two fingers on the shoulder buttons, off you go, son. That's pretty much how you're going to be the entire time. You miss that finger gymnastics element they have going on with Cytus if you play on the controller, which honestly I kind of miss, which it's kind of depressing playing on the controller after having played on the touchscreen and not being able to do all the fancy finger movements that make you feel like you're a pianist, but oh well, that's one thing. The other thing is that they've actually changed up a couple of the rules when the controller is set to go. So one of the main things especially is long notes. Now, there are long notes that are sitting on the very edge of the screen to the point where you have to wait for the timeline to bump up against the edge and then immediately start pressing the button. If you so much as hold the button like half a second, like not even half a second, like a quarter of a second before the line bumps and goes the other way so that you can hit a long note on the very edge, it will count as a miss. And that is one of the most frustrating things to deal with when it comes to Cytus on a controller, because the game is usually really generous about this. Now, it's like, it will give you a good on the touchscreen, right? If you hit one if the line is going the wrong way, but it will only give you a good. There are 3 types of note scoring in this game. There's perfect, which is like dead on. There's good, which is you just barely missed perfect. And then there's bad and miss, which are about the same anyway. They both kill your combo. So it's kind of frustrating that while if you're on a touchscreen and you hit it, you'll get a good. But at the same time, if you're on a controller and you do it, you'll get a complete and not a miss. There are other notes like that as well, but that's the most intense case of it, which is the most frustrating thing imaginable. One bonus that there is for playing on controller, though, is that since your hands aren't actively blocking the screen in front of you, you are going to be able to see all of the notes, so basically your hand being over the top of a note completely isn't something that'll actually happen in this version of Cytus at the very least, if you're playing on controller, which is a nice touch, I suppose. I still prefer playing on touchscreen, and I will probably be playing on touchscreen anytime I pull this game out again. But yeah, just worth noting that that is a thing. So let's start talking about the content. You do get the 10 main chapters. You do get a lot of the bonus chapters. I think you get all of them. You also get a bonus DJ Max chapter, which is exclusive to the Switch version, I think, which is cool. So there's well over 200 songs in the package. And as far as I can tell, all the hidden songs are still there too. I went and checked the ones that I know off by heart, and they are still there. However, I will point out that there's no way to actually get the hidden songs on controller. You have to play them on touchscreen. Bit weird, I grant you, but yeah. For those of you who don't know though, Cytus also has an easy and a hard difficulty, and there are also difficulty levels. So, this track that I'm on right now, Chocological, is an easy level 3. And the easy is basically just it saying this is the easier version of the track. There's also the harder version of the track. So the easy version could be a level 8, and then the hard version could be a level 9. That is entirely possible, and that is something they pull more than once in the song library. But it's basically meant so that you have a good selection of songs to play whether or not you suck or you're basically God, which is very well appreciated for any kind of rhythm game whatsoever. The game doesn't get massively hard later on, and they still throw in a few easy songs for good measure, but you do need to go through and actually unlock them first, because in this game, they don't actually unlock them all by default. You have to get a certain amount of points. It's usually like 5 million in order to actually get through. And if you go through all the songs on easy and find you're not at that 5 million yet, either you go back and improve, or you go and play a song on hard. Or if you've beaten enough songs in that chapter, it'll actually unlock the special chapter. So, yeah. The progression in this game is actually pretty good. You'll have plenty of ways to move forward, although you do have to do the main chapter songs in order to unlock the next chapter. Also, the secret songs do count, which is funny. I'm kind of surprised by that, actually. I didn't think they would actually count towards any sort of progression. And you can also do some of the bonus songs. Like, here's a hint for the most basic of bonus songs. When you're on the song select screen and you can see how many songs you've completed on easy and hard and how many songs there are in the chapter, if you tap on that counter, it will actually give you a bonus song for each chapter, which is actually pretty cool. It's a weird little way to hide a song. There are a bunch of other hidden songs as well, but the Cytus wiki has them well documented, so if you're really interested in finding that stuff out, well, that's fine. You can go do that. So, solo play, really good. Now, unfortunately, the multiplayer in this game leaves a lot to be desired, and I'll get into why right now, I suppose. So, there's no high score table, notably. A bit strange. At the same time, I can understand why, because most of the songs inside us, if not all of them, have been full cleared at this point, so someone who's really good at the game could just pick it up and full clear everything, and that would be it. But it would be nice to be able to see how far you are down the list, have everybody that's gotten 1 million points total, because in this game, getting every note in a song on perfect gives you 1 million points. That's how the score works. It's a shame that you can't like check the high scoreboard to see how even your friends are doing, which kind of sucks in all honesty. With that said though, there is some multiplayer aspect, and I have tried it. So you do actually need Nintendo Switch Online for this. I was lucky enough to have just a little bit left on my account, but I actually ended up picking the wrong account to play the game on because I thought my Nintendo Switch Online had actually run out. So I was a little bit lucky, and I swapped to that profile because it actually lets you play pretty much every song in the game if you play the online mode, but it's at random. You can also choose to match for a song, but the chances are very low that you'll actually find someone willing to play that song. Although I do believe the game will match people to you that are just waiting in the random queue. I believe that's a thing, based purely on my matchmaking, so yeah, but here's the drill. When you go up against someone online, you'll be fighting against 2 other people, and you'll be basically going up against them in a score attack, so it'll look almost identical to this, but in the top right, there'll be a small number that says you're coming either first, second, or third. I don't know why they only picked a maximum of 3 people, but whatever. And if you don't come... let me try this again. So if you come first, you get 2 wins. If you come second, you get 1 win. And if you come third, you get 0 wins. You can also fight against one other person head-to-head if the matchmaking is too slow, in which case you will get you'll get 1 win if you win and 0 wins if you lose. You can also use these wins to actually progress in the game. The secondary unlock for the special chapters is that you need to get a certain amount of wins in multiplayer. I believe the final chapters is 27 wins, which honestly is a bit much, especially because of my experience. So I played 4 songs. 1 was with 2 other people, and the rest was head-to-heads. Now, I'm not that bad of a Cytus player, and at the time I was playing on touchscreen, so I was doing my absolute best at the time. And I was getting scores like 900,000, 930,000, stuff like that, right? But in this mode, every single time I went into matchmaking, and I went up against 5 completely different people, so it's not like that this was uncommon, but every single time I went into matchmaking, I got matched up with someone who could get the full 1,000,000 points. Someone who could do a perfect combo with perfect timing every single time. And it drove me bonkers. Like, after the 4th time, with some asshole managing to get 1,000,000 points straight away, I was just like, fuck this. I threw my hands up in the air and I went, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. This does not make me feel good in the slightest. So, yeah. There's no leveling, there's no, like, proper matchmaking to put you in the right place with other people. No, you'll just get thrown in with people who can do the 1,000,000 combo, and it will not give a shit. It's a shame, really, because this game could really do with the sort of mechanic that Taiko no Tatsujin has, where you have the offline replays of other people, and you can play, like, alongside them, so that you don't need, like, Nintendo Switch Online. It seems weird that they don't do something like that, but I guess that would be harder to code, wouldn't it? And yeah, online doesn't get you anything else, you just rack up wins, as far as I can tell. One of the people I was up against had like 30 wins already, and the game hadn't even been out for more than a few hours, so yeah, it's not great if I'm being perfectly honest. At least in the multiplayer, you can actually match, like, what songs you want, so you can put a minimum difficulty and a maximum difficulty. So if you don't like playing, like, really intense songs online, because you know you're gonna get creamed, you can do that. But at the same time, I was playing on, like, difficulty 3 songs, and difficulty 8 songs, and I was just getting floored. So, yeah. Not a great situation, I must admit. It really wasn't that fun in the slightest. The song selection is as great as always. The people behind Cytus have fantastic taste, and there isn't a single song in the main roster or in a lot of the side chapters. There are a few side chapters that I haven't had the opportunity to play just because I haven't had a device that can play more up-to-date version of Cytus than my Vita. But yeah, the Overall quality of the library is fantastic. I obviously can't do too much talking. I obviously can't, like, not talk over the top of it because chances are I'll get copyright striked because they are kind of nervous about this. But yeah, the overall library is great, and considering that there's over 200 songs, it'll be hard to believe that someone can come in and, like, not like a song and then just choose, oh, I don't want to play this anymore, because you've got 200 other songs out there that you can go play. It's not like it's that big a deal. Other than that, though, it's a perfectly serviceable version of Cytus. Just avoid the online multiplayer and don't really bother playing on a controller like I've had to do for this footage here, because you can't record the Switch while also using the touchscreen at the same time without using a video output mod. Unfortunately, the guy I know who would be likely to provide these Switch video capture mods doesn't actually exist anymore, thanks to some new laws coming in Japan, which were basically designed to keep people from modifying their devices. He more or less went out of business, and people went by his physical office and saw that he just wasn't there anymore. He'd shut down, and that was really unfortunate because he was actually a pretty cool guy. So, you know, that's a real shame. But yeah, it's a perfectly fine and serviceable version of Cytus. The one thing that is worth noting about it is the price. Now, I have brought up before that the amount of content that they include in Cytus is ridiculous, and it would be well worth paying the full retail price for it. Well, it looks like they've finally taken me up on that offer, because this version of the game is $50 US, which is almost retail. And there is indeed going to be a physical version, which is going to be full retail price. And while some people might think that's kind of nuts, at the same time, it's a rhythm game with 200 songs, each with an easy and hard variation note layout, plus a bunch of hidden stuff, plus a bunch of online competitive stuff if you want it. I don't, but it's there if you want it. But yeah, they include a lot of content in this, and it could take you a very significant amount of time to get through all of it, especially if you're going for a million master, which is getting everything up to 1,000,000. Perfect accuracy, straight on beat, no misses, which would be very, very hard indeed. And there is also the possibility that they might be adding more songs to this, because this is Rayark we're talking about, and they have been adding content to all of their Switch-related stuff for ages at this point. Like, Voez has gotten like 30 or 40 new songs since it came out, plus the ability to play on controller and a bunch of other things. So, saying that Cytus Alpha is unlikely to receive new content would be a bit of a fib. It would be a bit of a dirty lie. I don't know if it is actually going to receive new content. I'm just saying it's entirely possible that it might, and it probably will, because they probably want to make that $50 stretch as far as possible, especially considering that it's the bloody Switch. So, considering that they're actually on a platform now that is not only really popular, but has the best way to play, which is the Switch's touchscreen, it's just hard to believe that they won't keep it a little bit propped up, at least until the next Cytus comes out. Fun fact, Cytus 2 is actually out on the Android devices, but I wasn't able to get it to play properly. I am running on a tablet that's like 8 years old at this point, so I'm not really that surprised. But yeah, it's just a little bit unfortunate. Who knows if they're going to release Cytus 2 anywhere else other than Android at this point, but well, still, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Cytus, and Cytus has 200 songs, which are pretty much all great. At the very least, I'm really looking forward to getting to Chapter 10 so I can play Freedom Dive again. The amount of bonus content is great. The online multiplayer is there if you want it, but, well, yeah, I don't really want it. And it might be getting updated sooner rather than later. I don't really have anything that bad to say about it, except maybe the controller scheme is a bit poorly thought out in one or two areas, but considering that I've been playing through this entire video on controller, and I've been doing basically alright. I'm actually going to get a full combo on this. It's not going to be all perfect timing, but it's going to be a full combo nonetheless. So, controller is at least viable. At least on the easier stuff. See? Full combo, 298 hits. But yeah, it's pretty good. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Because, well, I love Cytus. I've loved it ever since I first played it, so it's great for it to finally get a release on an actually popular platform, and like no DLC, no bullshit like that, just a full-on purchasable version of Cytus. I might have to go, well, I probably want to go get the physical version, but maybe if I ever get the opportunity, I might pick it up. So, there you go. This has been Blue Maxima. I'm going to let this play out. I also have to say, once again, I'm probably going to have to edit this bloody audio clip to put the thanks in at the beginning as well. But thanks to Play Asia for supporting me and allowing me to afford this copy of Cytus Alpha. If you want to support me in the channel, there's a link in the description and a coupon code that you can use to save a little bit off your order. I don't control how much you save. They do tend to change it from time to time. Use both the link and the coupon code. You put the coupon code in during checkout, and that will support me in the channel. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.